For more information on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com. youtube.com/channelsweb has videos of our shows. We'll now continue with our focus on Nigeria's infrastructure. We're now being joined on the news at 10 by Professor Gbenga Nubi from the Department of Housing in the University of Lagos to discuss further on the challenges of the infrastructure, especially housing for our country, Nigeria, even after many years of independence. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10. But do you say that Nigeria is at par, if you will, with some of its fellow developing countries in terms of infrastructure development? In your area, for instance, let's begin from there, the housing sector.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I remember very well the time the President of America, President Bill Clinton, came to this country during the time of President Obasanjo. Clinton said something about our infrastructure. He said, America does not have great infrastructure because America is great. But America is great because America has great infrastructure. It's the infrastructure that will lead to economic growth and development that will make any nation to be great. So when you travel around the world today, what we call basic infrastructure, electricity, water, good transportation system, there's no room for comparison. And the unfortunate thing is that quite other nations around the world were making progress, amazing progress, that you see it blows your mind. But you travel roads that were once in good condition in this country, the roads have disappeared. The housing deficit, like you said earlier, is increasing. So there is no room for comparison. The only thing we can do is that let's interrogate why the deficit is ever increasing, despite the fact that there were several programs in the past.
In addition to that, there has been huge funding over the past years from previous administrations. And then we're still having these reports of deficits in critical areas such as housing, which you're an expert in. What do you think is the problem, actually?
Yeah, it's basic. There are fundamental problems. And I just want to give this analogy. Huge money spent on what? Housing is a system. Housing is like a car. You say today, I have a car. It's only I have a problem with my battery. You don't have a car. You say, I have a beautiful car. I have a problem with my tire. You don't have a car. Before you can say you have a car, every component of that car must be working. And that's housing. So housing is a system. And it consists of several components. The land is there, the infrastructure is there, the building material is there, the artisan to even put together, the technology. Everything must be working together before we can. But why do we see huge expenditure and very little or nothing to show? It's like this analogy of just looking at the fantasy, living in fantasy island, you know. I was in a seminar in US several years ago, and someone said the problem of African infrastructure is like one of the other states of Africa. You just come to New York and see a fast-moving train. And he just said, how much is this fast-moving train? And he says, $7 billion. Okay, $7 billion, $7 million. We can afford that. And paid. Put it inside a container, bring it to Africa. And they brought it to Africa.
Is that a problem?
And they assemble it. Will it work? It will not work. It will not work. Train will not work on a mud ground. You need to build infrastructure. You need to build the track first. What you see as huge expenditure is just for the purchase of the train. We need to go back to the basics and build the basic infrastructure first before we can show value for the money we are putting into housing.
What's your thoughts when people say that a viable mortgage system will address the problems of housing in Nigeria? Do you agree with that statement?
It is the only way out. is the only way out. Nigeria is not isolated in the Committee of Nations. We all run a global economy. Your ATM card is the same ATM card you use in New York. You can't be different. It's only in this part of the world that a young graduate will leave university, work for 5 years, and he say, I want to build a house. It's only here you hear such statements. All over the world, US, UK, any European country, what you hear is, I want to buy a house. The poor man, an average citizen of any developed nation, they buy houses. The rich won't build. But it's reversed in Africa. The poor man builds, and the rich man is buying. It cannot work. Housing is a commodity. Until we begin to see housing as a commodity, and we begin to see a finance structure that will make you to purchase it as a commodity. And that is, mortgage is the source of purchase of any housing. Mortgage is that you have a housing stock and fund is made available that you can buy the house and pay for about 25 to 25 years. That's where the affordability comes in. So the solution is, let's look down, let's see how do we grow the mortgage sector. Except we grow the mortgage sector, there is no solution to housing problem.
That's a good place to let it rest. I must thank you so much indeed. Professor Gbenga Nubi from the Department of Housing, University of Lagos. Many thanks indeed for talking to us on the News at 10.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.